Hi there, I'm Grace McNab. I teach music theory at Capilano University. I'd like to share some of my ideas about that subject with you, and particularly musical form and ways in which we can enrich our study of that and keep the music very much in music theory. This next example came to me when I was looking at a famous diagram called Cantors Dust. So if you want to look that up sometime to see what that is, you'll see that the diagram refines down to literally particles from having started out as a kind of a series of solid bars. Now this happens musically. It's a kind of a, I guess I'd call it a recursive structure, a way in which Mozart in particular loves to generate the same rhythms in smaller and smaller time spans so that the music appears to be talking about itself. I'm going to play a famous Mozart theme, probably everyone's first piano sonata. And before I start, I want to make sure to remind you the basic structure which this fools around with or begins to evolve is what you might call long, long, short, short, long. But in classical music, there's a kind of a rhetorical speech-like way in which these units of time pass by, so that our statement is going to sound like quite an assertive thing. If you know your chord symbols, it's 1 and 5, or some kind of a starting progression. The response is a corollary to that, backs it up, so that these two make quite a natural unit. After that, evolution takes place. Sometimes we use the word fragmentation. If it's over a whole course of a piece, it could be a bridge, a development, a digression, but it tends to break down the lengths of time that you have become used to in the first two units. So the short shorts are very important, and they can become short, 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 like an accordion opening out so that more music can take place in there before we finally come to our cadence. Now, very interesting, the cadence, if you bore into it, it often echoes the structure of the whole. So sometimes you'll hear, at least within a cadence itself, you'll hear short, short, long. Or you might even hear long, long, short, short, long. So not only is it an ending, but it's also a reflection of the whole in a kind of a condensed form. So here we go. I'll play this well-known Mozart theme for you, and hopefully you can hear that the kind of music that happens in the green, yellow, and blue zones is palpably different. You will be able to tell the change in stage. So here we go, dark green. Response, light green. Fragments. Ending. Now I'd like you to dwell on that ending with me for a moment. A little bit hard to see maybe, but in fact the tail end, this part, it's what's called standing on the dominant or dominant pedal. I think you can hear the rhythm in there. So within itself, the ending has a microcosm in a certain way of the rhythm of the whole. A little harder to hear is from the exciting scales that went up. You can actually hear a larger scale version of it so that the long, long, short, short, long actually becomes on the next level the long, long, and even shorter, shorter, long. So I'll play the sort of from the last bit from the second layer here. A little bit of a train crash there, but you get the general idea. Now, listening from the beginning, you'll hear that Mozart doubles up on his fragments, and then he launches an entire other structure, and then halfway through that, he launches an entire other structure. So there's a feeling that the noose is being tightened. The very interesting part about this is, for those of you who know your circle of fifths and your harmony, that we start in C major. This particular portion is on a D minor chord, which is our 2 chord, and this part is on our 5 chord. So it's a progression called 1, 2, 5, and you can sort of say that the 1 chord has its own sentence, or its own long, long, short, short, long. The 2 chord has its own, and finally the 5 chord has its own. So everyone is a child of the other one as we dig deeper into the phrase. One more time for the whole thing. Stay. statement, response, fragments,